Hi, Michael King here again to share with you a little about spiritual addiction. Now, I'm speaking from my own experience once again, as after over 10 years of alcohol and drug abuse, I then transferred my dependency onto my spirituality. Spiritual addiction is an addiction that's not really well understood, yet it is very common in our society. A person will become addicted to spirituality, and from the outside, they appear to be leading a very, very successful life, and a lot of people will look up to them. However, the addiction here is chasing the high of spiritual connection in order to avoid the pain of the human life. Spiritual addiction is one of the hardest addictions to accept and to recover from, because these people are looked up to as, living a very spiritual life. Also, the spiritual high is very addictive, it's free, and it's very blissful. For some people, they find this high on a weekend workshop or a retreat, and it's so unlike anything that they've ever felt before in their life that they spend a large amount of time and money then trying to recreate that experience over and over again. But of course, in the real world, outside the courses and the group work, it can be very difficult to recreate this feeling. You can often tell if someone is addicted to spirituality because it has become who they are in a really obsessive way. A truly spiritual person has no attachment to praise or acceptance or approval or possessions for that matter. They're just really at peace with themselves and with the world. They live in a peaceful way and allow others to be as they are. For them there's no judgment, it all just is. Spiritual or religious addiction are both really quite easy to spot. If the person you are with cannot talk about anything other than spirituality or religion, and often they're trying to convert you to their way of thinking, then they're almost certainly a spiritual addict. For them, that's their whole world, their spiritual life. Being spiritual is just a part of the way you choose to live your life. But for addicts, it takes over completely, just like any other addiction. Anyone who says that they are spiritual and then indulges in judgment, criticism, hatred, bigotry, xenophobia, gossip, self-loathing, self-righteousness, inferiority or superiority, they're not really living their spiritual truth. Remember that the word spirit literally means to love. So to be spiritual means to engage in a culture of love in your life. I'll just remind you that love and sex are not the same thing, but that's another story which is covered extensively elsewhere in the Cosmosis training. These days we now seem to use the word enlightenment so casually, yet ironically it actually happens so very rarely, and only to people who have really surrendered all their attachments and are at peace with life. We put others on a pedestal so easily, and yet true spirituality is a relatively private affair between you and your inner spirit reality. Spiritual addiction is very much about showing others how spiritual you are and gaining glory from your spirituality. It's all about ego instead of just leading by example. For some people, the place they call enlightenment is a place that feels like it, but it's not really it. For them, it's just still all about their ego, the small I, the separate self. You may want to listen to my CD, The Quasi-Spiritual Epiphany, for more about this phenomena. As with the heroin addict who thinks the high from heroin is the answer, spiritual addiction takes you to a place that will prevent you from learning to accept yourself completely, shadow side and all, and learn to find peace here on earth. Many people who find it easy to leave the planet in meditation have learnt to do so as a method of escaping the pain that life causes them. For these people, learning to deal with life on life's terms and facing both their pain and their pleasure without judgment and working through it is the only way they'll ever find that peace. The rest is just escapism. Spiritual addiction is like all the other addictions. It's very cunning, baffling and powerful. If this video is causing a reaction in you, then perhaps you might do well to find out a little bit more about addictions. I have another video on ending the cycle of addiction which you can watch. Your reactions will tell you where you are avoiding the truth. We are experiencing great changes on the planet at this time, and now is a wonderful opportunity to look deep into ourselves and find out what is holding us back from peace and harmony with ourselves and with the planet. If you struggle with an addiction to anything at all, be it a substance, a behaviour or a thought process, then spiritual growth is very difficult, as the addiction will work very hard to keep you small and suffering. This is what it does. It restricts you and keeps you in pain. Spiritual growth is about growing, expanding and learning. So addiction and growth really are mutually exclusive activities. What does it mean to be out of balance with your spirituality? If you're out of balance with spirituality, it means that you're giving the spiritual side of existence too much importance in your life. Remember, spirituality is about grounding and expressing love. You may spend all your time focusing on activities such as meditation, psychic development, and being immersed in that which is supernatural or otherworldly. You may be so introverted and lost inside yourself that you find it difficult to relate to the rest of the world unless the conversation is about personal or spiritual development. That's another sign of being out of balance. And you may take your spirituality so seriously, and yourself so seriously, that you've forgotten to have fun in your life as well. If you are imbalanced in your spirituality, you will also find that you have neglected other more earthly areas of your life, such as making money and your social life. I suggest that you buy my Sonic Alchemy CD concerning balancing horizontal and vertical integration, which deals with this balancing act in depth and has some really useful processes on it for you. Now, the types of people who are commonly out of balance with spirituality include psychics, healers, and other people who work in personal development with a spiritual emphasis. It is easy to get out of balance with spirituality when you work in the spirit realm all day. Another type is people who have gone through some sort of trauma in their life and who are on a path of healing. These people may be addicted to their healing experiences and the highs that you get from connecting to spirit. They may be spending so much time detoxing and healing spiritually and emotionally that they forget to live too. Another common type of person who experiences spiritual imbalance, those who dislike something about their current circumstances, but they lack the motivation or the courage to change it, and they find it easier to escape through the spiritual realm. If you recognise that you are out of balance, work on your grounding connection to the earth. Now, your Cosmosis mentor will help you with this. Being grounded is an important part of the Cosmosis process. One of the most effective ways to overcome a spiritual addiction is to get a cord-cutting healing session, which sets the intention to bring about more balance between your lower and upper chakras. One of our Cosmosis mentors here at the Cosmosis Mentoring Centre, Linda Cohen, is a counsellor that specialises in grief and loss counselling. She is an obvious choice to help you to bring a human spiritual balance back into your life. This is something that she specialises in. Apart from that, here are some lifestyle suggestions to help bring some more balance into your life. If you feel lightheaded and spacey in your body, then check in with your eating habits. Your eating habits can either help tether you to the earth plane, or they can destabilise and unground you. From my personal experience, both vegetarianism and veganism I find to be ungrounding. Being on that kind of diet as a psychic or as a very spiritual person requires a very strong foundation of healthy self-esteem and a very naturally strong connection to earth reality. Now, if you don't have that, it will certainly unbalance you if you're a vegetarian or a vegan. Now I bring this issue up because many people do become drawn to a vegetarian diet when they begin to get interested in spirituality or psychic development. Having said that, when you open your upper chakras, you might be drawn to giving up meat. This may or may not be a permanent thing. I have had periods of vegetarianism during my development. However, the more my life involves energy work within the environmental body, the more I find that a balanced diet from all the food groups serves me and the spiritual work that I do. One of our Cosmosis mentors is a naturopath who is well trained in this area, so before you do anything drastic with your diet, I suggest you consult with him. Other ways to unground yourself with your diet include not eating enough and not eating regularly. Regular eating connects you to the earth. Another symptom of spiritual imbalance is neglecting your body habitually and not caring about your personal appearance. Make sure that you have clothes that you love wearing and pay attention to your grooming. There is nothing spiritual about being scruffy and unkempt. Another way to honour your physicality is to exercise regularly. Walking is okay, but something that raises your heart rate on a regular basis is even better. I walk a couple of kilometres a day, and I've noticed the difference it makes to feeling physically present. I also do resistance weight training, which raises my heart rate. Another big symptom of spiritual imbalance is when you don't want to do anything non-spiritual because it bores you. That's just a form of spiritual judgment. I suggest that you have some non-spiritual activities in your life, whether it bores you or not. This sounds obvious, but having a variety of activities in your life, some of which have nothing to do with spirituality, is important. The reason why most normal people don't have problems with their grounding is because most normal people have jobs that keep them grounded. If you work in personal development and spirituality, then you will need some sort of activity that you do regularly that brings you into contact with people you wouldn't normally meet in spiritual circles. You also need some kind of fun hobby, which allows you to engage in the world of things, people and activities. I collect and restore old cars, and there's nothing quite like skinning your knuckles with a spanner to remind you that you are human. If you are really out of balance, you will have lost your interest for non-spiritual activities, and in that case I suggest a healing session with one of our professional Cosmosis mentors to help you bring more balance back into your life. The interest for normal human activities is one that you need to recover bit by bit, and it comes back as you put your focus there, as you put your attention there. So don't worry if you're not passionate about anything but spirituality or your inner world for a while, even as you begin to explore other more earthly interests again. The desire for more normal human stuff will come back once you put your attention on it, but it'll take a little bit of time. Now, another golden key to spiritual balance is to have some non-spiritual people in your life. Make sure that you don't avoid social contact with people who don't share your worldview. One of the hallmarks of enlightenment is being able to relate to people from all walks of life. I have met lots of spiritual people who don't like having friends who they judge to be non-spiritual. But you don't need to share your worldview with everyone that is in your life. It's about affinity, and people don't have to share your way of thinking for you to have an affinity with them. Some of the most spiritual people that I know are not actively engaged in any kind of spiritualism or group. Not everyone needs to be acquainted with every single part of you that exists. After all, you're a multifaceted, multidimensional person, and there is a lot more to you than just your spirituality. It is true that if you're very intimate with someone, then you will probably want to be able to share and connect that inner spiritual part of you with them. But it's not necessary for you to do so with everyone that crosses your path. Another symptom of spiritual imbalance is when you spend lots of time working on your beliefs, goals and plans, but you rarely create any real change in your life or accomplish anything on the ground. Get out of your head and just take the next step in front of you. Success is about those consistent actions accumulating momentum on a daily basis. You need to learn how to balance the perspective of your mind's eye with the necessary actions on the ground. In other words, you have to balance the realm of ideas with the realm of action. Now, another sign of spiritual imbalance that comes to mind is having a pessimistic view of the world. As Richard Bach says, the measure of your ignorance is the depth of your belief in tragedy and injustice. Stop taking yourself so seriously and learn to enjoy life. Spiritual, empathic people can feel other people's plight and are often obsessed about how they can contribute to saving the world. The reality is that saving the world is a very rare responsibility and chosen learning. The best you can do is to be content to play your small part in the plan to the best of your ability and to not be envious of other people's puzzle pieces in the grand scheme of things. Remember that life is not just a school and your purpose isn't to save the world from itself. Life is also a fun, creative playground, so take time off from your spiritual mission and make sure you do something that you really enjoy regularly to nurture the human being that you are. Now, I don't mean just going for a walk or meditating on your own or something dull like that. I mean real fun. Do something that makes you laugh really hard. If you are lucky enough to have a regular sex partner, then take the time to have great sex on a regular basis. If you have a regular sex partner, you don't realise how lucky you are. Find something that you can do regularly in your week to fill this need for fun and playing. Another big indicator that you are in spiritual imbalance is neglecting the practical side of your life. Make sure that you attend to the practicalities of your finances and physical well-being. Making a budget is very grounding because it reins in your energy and makes you aware of your present financial limitations and helps you to also set goals for your financial future. One of our Cosmosis mentors is a fully qualified financial counsellor, and the Cosmosis training includes clearing your limiting beliefs around abundance. Cleaning, organising and tidying your physical environment is especially good for grounding, as is attending to day-to-day errands and all those little jobs you've been meaning to do for a while. Preparing food, cooking and baking are all very grounding too. All those aspects of physical life that you perhaps would rather run away from are exactly what you need to attend to in order to stay grounded. Ultimately, if you're out of balance with your spirituality, which in practical terms means that you are addicted to spirituality, then you're running away from something or someone. Remember that someone that you're running away from may be yourself. Imbalanced spirituality is a form of escapism that can become an addiction. What are you trying to escape from? It could be a past situation that is too difficult to address and process in a normal human emotional way, so you spiritualize it. It could be someone who hurt you. In order to cope with such situations, people can begin to look for an explanation of why such things have happened to them. It's the spiritual person's version of finding God after something bad happens in their life. Spirituality is something that should enrich your life, support you and guide you. But it should not be something you depend on like a crutch, an escape mechanism or something that stops you from living life to the fullest. You should not be obsessed with finding out why something has happened to you or what you are learning from events. Those things inevitably reveal themselves later in divine timing and with the wisdom of hindsight. So how do you know what you could be escaping from? Well, what's the thing that you still cry about or feel sad about for seemingly no reason? If you shy away from reality, is it because you have anxiety issues that stop you from having a life? What is still breaking your heart if you're really honest with yourself? What do you dislike about your life that you want to change? At some point, we all have wounds that make us want to hide away from the world. Losers define themselves from such experiences in a self-limiting way. Yet winners learn from them. They pick themselves up and get on with their life. They're a little wiser and a little more enlightened with each impact. Choose to be a winner and get on with your life. There are very few people who reach a certain age and have no wounds at all. Find out what yours are and address them in a human, emotional way. Your Cosmosis mentor will help you with this process. The Cosmosis training will ultimately help you to resolve these issues on all levels. You can resolve things on the level of spirit, but we must bring the healing down into the emotional and physical plane for anything to change in our day-to-day life. Summon the courage to take the action you need to in order to lay the past to rest. Becoming involved with the Cosmosis Mentoring Centre will guide you through all of these processes. We will walk by you hand in hand as you go through this journey. This is our purpose and our chosen learning, to walk alongside you on this journey. I hope you join us soon, and I hope to meet you at one of our Cosmosis transformational events. And maybe I'll see you upstairs.